Hello, welcome back to the Flicks Forum podcast with Jesse and MJ, where each episode we go back and look at a Netflix original film in the order of release. This is our 15th day of Podmas, where we are releasing an episode every day in the lead up to Christmas. Yay.
Yeah, because we love Christmas.
We do.
This is our present to our listeners.
Good. So today we have Netflix's 63rd film. It's called The Open House. It's a 2018 horror directed by Matt Angel and Suzanne Coote. It stars Dylan Minnette, Piercey Dalton, Sharif Atkins, Patricia Bethune, and Aaron Abrams. Hey.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. 15 days in a row. What did you say? 63rd Netflix film. This crazy venture of ours is kind of working.
It's heating up.
It is heating up. And I'm glad that we've put ourselves under the pump with Podmas. It's been fun. And there's 10 more days of Podmas to go.
So we're over halfway. That's good.
That's true.
We've got a horror film in the middle of Christmas.
You do recall our bet about Christmas analogies or references in the last sort of 12 films?
I do. We might have to discuss that bet very soon.
All right.
We'll start off with our little fast flicks of the film. We are going to spoil this film as we go, and we'll probably spoil it pretty early. So if you're intrigued by this film, go watch it first. We start with our fast flicks, quick little summary of what we thought. So MJ, what do you think of this film?
Can you do yours first?
Sure.
I wanted to hear yours first.
I've said a family tragedy leads to a mother and son moving to an isolated house in the woods. What could possibly go wrong?
Okay, I like yours then.
Question.
It has got a question in it again. That's true. It's been a while since.
It's been a while. Had to get a question in there.
Done more than you used to do, like 3 or 4 words in some of them. So.
Your turn.
My fast flicks for The Open House is a horror film with more holes than Swiss cheese in its concept and execution that you're not quite sure whether you've missed something or you've just been taken on a ride. I couldn't ride a fast flicks.
I like the Swiss cheese analogy straight up. That's great.
It didn't deserve, not to mention these issues straight away.
Good.
I couldn't not. That's why I wanted you to go first, so we can go 2 minutes.
Yep.
Without slandering this film. But I had a lot of trouble with it.
Well, you mentioned our little Christmas bet. So we had a little bit of a bet a couple of days ago where are we going to have any Christmas references in any of the films?
Because we had 3 Christmas films in a row.
We did. We had 3 in a row.
And I think I was sad that, that's all we've got up until now in Christmas. And you were like, no, there'll be a reference of Christmas in some sorts.
This one, there's definitely a reference to Christmas in it.
I can't even remember.
Can't remember. So I was clutching at straws because I was getting worried, thinking we're never going to get a Christmas reference.
This one, obviously it's like snowy.
Yeah, well, they're driving to this house in the middle of the woods, and I'm like, oh, there's snow. Can I count that as Christmas?
Yeah.
And I was like,
of course you can't.
I wrote it down just in case, but then as soon as they rock up to this little shop, there's jingle bells playing as they walk through the shop.
Oh!
Then the guy working behind the counter, his name's Chris. We'll probably get to him later on, but on his counter in the shop, he had this little calendar on that said 25 days to Christmas, and he had this big jar of Santa pens.
Oh, you got me. I completely missed that.
Also, later in the film, there's a scene where they rock up home and there's a table set in the house, and as they walk in, Silent Night plays.
Was that Silent Night? Was it? I remember thinking after this film, I was like, oh, was there any Christmas references in that? And I'm thinking, oh, there really could have been. But I'm like, I don't recall them saying we've got to be back by Christmas or we're going to do this Christmas. But there you go.
So do we double it up? Double or nothing? Or
I'm happy to go double or nothing.
All right, let's go double or nothing.
Because that didn't feel particularly festive.
Didn't feel hard at all. All right, double or nothing. Let's see how we go moving forward. If we get any more Christmas references.
This will be fun. We've got 10 more movies to get through.
10 to get through. All right. Sometimes we like to have a look and see if we could find anything out about a film. I need your help with this one.
Yep, okay.
Because I struggled.
So this one actually had its budget listed on IMDb.
Oh, good.
A lot of the time, Netflix movies don't because they don't have to. Like, they don't list their ratings or their audience numbers or anything. So
how much do they spend?
100,000. So it's a minuscule budget. Minuscule.
Wow. Could you find any references to other films with 100,000 budget?
There's very few, but there was a movie, The Gallows, a few years ago, a horror film that was not a great film, but it did quite well at the box office, and that was a huge success story. I believe there is a sequel in the making. I'm hearing things called The Gallows 2. I haven't looked into it properly, but I'm assuming it's a sequel.
Yeah.
And there's another film, a 2006 football movie called Facing the Giants, which I'm not familiar with, but that did okay as well for $100,000. So
100 grand's a good little spot for a little small horror film.
It is. But you know what? Even then, it's small for a horror film. I mean, you could almost crowdfund, or you could crowdfund movies for $100,000. So we got to keep that in mind, and you have to give some sort of credit where credit's due for making a film for that amount of money. doesn't excuse some of the issues that I'm going to come with later. But they shot the film in Big Bear in California.
Yep.
So that was a 17-day shoot for the mountain scenes, I guess you want to call them. So when they're at the open house. And then they went back to LA. So that was in December 2016.
Okay.
And then went back to LA in January to shoot what was effectively the start of the film. That will happen sort of in LA. So
yeah, all right.
Pretty small shooting time. So they basically, so Matt Angel and Susan Coote, who are the writers and directors, they had Dylan Minnette attached. They sent him the script and he loved it. Which, come on, Dylan. Come on, mate.
Surely he'd be asking for more than $100,000 in any role moving forward.
I think that's what you hear with actors, that they get their payday with films and then they do their little passion projects where they know they can't get paid as much. But yeah, you're right. So I think he was working on 13 Reasons Why at the time, or it hadn't been released, or whatever it was. He agreed to this film whilst that was being made or almost released.
Yep.
So then it released and became huge. And they had a rough cut of the open house already made. And they took it to Netflix because of the whole Dylan Minnette link.
Yep.
And Netflix basically just said, yep, we want to make this one of our original films. And as Matt Angel and Susan Coote said, they rushed it to get it ready.
Good. Well, yeah, you've been able to find a lot more than I could.
And then after that was all done, Netflix made the decision to have no press previews of the film prior to it releasing.
I don't know why. I can't work that one out.
And Matt Angel and Susan Coote were happy to oblige. They were sort of, you know what, Netflix knows what they're doing, so let's back them in.
So it came out January 19th, 2018?
Yep. So it's sort of a year after they got everything rolling. It is number 52 on the bottom rated movies on IMDb. Really? That's a pretty big... like, that's the 52nd worst film rated on IMDb. Disaster movie is number 1.
Okay. While we're talking about numbers, I guess.
Yeah,
we could probably talk about some numbers. So IMDb, this had quite a big...
It did.
A big amount of people that jumped on to give it a rating.
So, yeah. So it had nearly 27,000 ratings on IMDb for a 3.2 out of 10. Obviously, we knew that number was going to be small. It's the 52nd worst film rated on IMDb. But Netflix must be like, people are watching this film. And, like... does that make it a success? I don't know. 1.5 out of 5 on Letterboxd as well, from
nearly 11,000.
That's a very low score. 1.5 out of that's less than the 3.2 on IMDb. What was it on Rotten Tomatoes?
So Rotten Tomatoes, it didn't have a consensus. It only had 13 reviews. So I'm a bit confused on what you need to get a consensus.
Sometimes like 6 or 7 reviews gets a consensus.
So it had 23%. The audience, however, was quite a lot lower.
How?
So the audience had nearly 2,000 ratings.
Sure.
Only on 9% though.
Oh.
So 9% on Rotten Tomatoes from the audience is low.
So that's effectively less than 1 star out of 10.
Yeah. Yeah, that's low, real low.
That's very low. It's actually higher than Letterboxd, because that'd be like a 1.8 out of 5.
Yeah.
So the directors got death threats.
Really?
I don't know how serious these death threats are, but they got a lot of
Dylan fangirls?
Incredibly negative feedback on how bad this film was. And you know what? At the end of the day, they're human. There's no point taking it personally. I think a lot of the consensus, from what I can gather, is that people were annoyed with the ending. You know what? There's plenty of crappy endings in movies. You can sit there and go, that was a terrible movie, but no one needs to get threatened because of it.
No, definitely not.
And this is
talk about what you want about the ending, but don't get personal.
Absolutely not. And I think I don't know if I've looked at this, and I know we normally get this later, but it's sort of talk about now with the directors. I think this is their first. I don't know. This is their first feature film.
I think so, possibly. So they obviously worked together. Not sure how. So Matt Angel, it's his first feature. He did a TV movie, but he does lots of acting.
Yeah.
And they were both in the film. Like, he was one of the cops, and she was the waitress in the diner at the start. So
well, they're $100,000 budget, so they might as well jump in.
But yeah, don't know much about them at all.
No, neither do I. And I see this as a massive learning curve for their career in directing, because I think and I'll get into it later. some of the issues I had with this film were just really novice issues. So
cool. Should we have a look at our sort of early thoughts?
Yeah, I don't think I've got much more than I found on the film.
Ooh, yeah, all right. So early thoughts. What are your early thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I thought it was atrocious. I really did. It felt like a student film that they'd wanted to adopt as many horror cues as possible, but without putting any real substance behind a narrative to make any of these cues work. I've written down like there's slow pans around the house that are accompanied by ominous music, and then nothing happens, and then nothing's even relevant about slow panning on the cupboard.
There's a lot of things in this film that become irrelevant.
Yeah.
Not just the camera techniques.
Constant shots of the shoes of this would-be killer, but then not revealing him to keep some sort of mystery or ambiguity. I don't know.
I'll talk about that later because I feel like they tried to explain that, and then I was like, that was so bad.
Numerous red herrings just thrown around the place that were clearly red herrings.
Yep.
Like a crazy Alzheimer's suffering neighbour that, you know, we're going to get a payoff for her, right? No, we're not going to get a payoff.
Of course
for
not.
her.
There's no payoff in this film at all.
Because it's like, a lot of horror films have this like crazy, and I'm like, that's cool. I'm waiting to see where this ends, and it went nowhere. And then obvious recurring motifs that will basically set you up for the conclusion because they've set you up. Hey, keep an eye on this thing. You know, like the music, that song that keeps playing, the fact that he wears glasses and contact lenses, the fact that he's a bit of a runner and he's going to go running. And it's just like, they're like, shit, we got to put this in. All right, let's put it in there. Oh, let's put it in there. And it just didn't add up to the...
Scathing. I don't think I've heard you this scathing.
I'm disappointed, Jesse. Okay. I love horror films.
Well, I had... It's a horror film. I was like, I had decent expectations for this one too. I walked into it, I was like, well...
And I love Dylan Minnette.
Yeah, and I don't think I should have had any expectations at all.
I don't think it would have helped.
No, because this was poorly put together and had some real frustrating moments for me, which you've mentioned quite a few, but we'll probably pull them apart a little bit further as we go.
Yeah. And I'm all for like a B-grade horror film that has these cliche, obvious scenes to build some suspense. You know, when someone's running and they fall over and you're just like, fall over, but then your heart's still pumping, you know? And I'm okay with that, but they have to be part of a wider story. They don't just happen because, you know?
That's just everything that just happens because of this movie.
Yeah.
It's a good way of putting it. All right, well, let's have a look at some characters.
Have you... this is one more thing that annoyed me. Did you have a look at your... how Netflix... says what percentage match this is for your film.
Your Netflix match.
Yeah, what was yours for this?
I had 69%. What did you have?
I had 94.
You watch a lot of cheap horror movies.
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
But there should be like a filter for good or bad films. So yeah, I might like horror and thriller, but I like good horrors and thrillers.
So did you give this the thumbs down?
I gave it the thumbs down. I'm like, okay, they can't be like, this guy likes horrors. It's like, no. Like, he doesn't like bad films though. So, there's got to be like... I can't tell you how many people I reckon would have done a thumbs up for this film. Yeah. So there's got to be a point where they're like, shit, no one likes this film. We can't throw out 94% matches.
They're probably, let's just match it to anyone. Anything.
I've got to keep a closer look on this and what their algorithm might be because that disappointed me.
Okay. Good.
94 was high, 69 fair enough. You should have had expectations.
That was still pretty high. I was like, okay. It's close to 70. I was like, yeah, I might enjoy it.
True.
All right, characters. We should start off with Logan.
Logan Wallace.
And I'm going to apologise if I refer to him as Clay throughout because that's all.
Well, this is such a shame for me. Firstly, because I think Dylan Minnette is very talented. And he was really working with nothing here. But he was the one that signed on for it as well. But his performance was fine. No issues with his performance. His character was basically, for me, because you're going to call him Clay, he was drawing inspiration from his Goosebumps character, like moving into a new place with his mum, and his Don't Breathe character, which is a horror where he's stuck inside a house with a dangerous man. Yeah. So it's like they didn't branch out too far with Dylan Minnette for this. Is
perfect casting.
Yeah, but it annoyed me where he would flip out for reasons that could seem understandable, you know, going through losing your father and being moved away and scary shit happening in a house. But they hadn't set it up properly for him to lose his shit on something.
I think what frustrated me the most about that sort of thing is, especially as soon as his mum talks to a guy, it's like out of nowhere, he's just like, here's this hissy fit that, you know, she's being flirted with, I can't deal with this, I need to storm out. And I was like, there was no...
Which is fine. Like, I can understand a character being like that, but you need to
some build up to why.
Again, it's probably just one of those things there, like, we're going to get the kid getting angry at the mum. Bang, let's do it. Like, no, there's a subtlety to it that you need to understand the character. Because he was doing things and I'm like, where'd that come from?
Yeah, they set him up this this nice kid who's happy to use his birthday money to pay for food for his mum because she hasn't got enough money.
Yeah, exactly.
And then, without any real bad things happening.
The very next scene.
Yeah, and then he loses his absolute bananas at her like later on in the house as well. And I was like, the reaction to that probably wasn't. Well, I didn't feel that reaction.
Because that scene was to get them off the case because they were starting to figure out that some creepy stuff was going on in their house. Yeah. So that was the audience being like, are they going to figure it out? And then, fair enough, throw us off again, but be true to your characters, It's literally a plot progression move, which just completely changes the character. And you're like, oh, well, this isn't real. This person isn't a real person. This character isn't a real person.
I've got Naomi next.
Yeah, so do I. And sorry, I just hit the microphone.
That's okay.
Similarly, I had no issues with Piercey Dalton's acting performance. In fact, I thought it was a commendable performance considering what she was working with.
Didn't have much.
What do you mean?
Like to work with.
Yeah, sorry, that's what I meant. Yeah, no, I thought she was all right. Like, I want to sort of keep that clear about my concerns with the film.
The character as well, like we mentioned, didn't have much, and to me, it didn't sort of show this mother who was there for her son once the father's gone. It's like, they've got no money, so let's go rent free at this place out in the middle of nowhere. That's all cool, I get that, but then you don't show her like attempting to get any work, or it's just like, I'm just gonna do my hobby photography without even worrying about any of this financial sort of stresses as well.
Well, to your point, I actually didn't understand her motivations for moving to the mountains anyway. Like,
they couldn't afford the rent of that place, so they needed somewhere to live, I guess.
But were they?
Like, it wasn't like there was going to be easy for her to get a job or anything.
Yeah, but that's the thing. But I'm sure she had a job at home, maybe. But then she just stopped working, and then there was no money. But then they just kept like living with no work, and I don't know. The whole motivation was really weird.
It was like, we just need to get them as quickly as possible to this isolated location to try and get some scares.
This is I'm going to bring it up now because it's relevant for the character. But this is in my scenes when she says to her sister, "Oh, he'll kill me if he pulls me out of school. If I pull him out of school." And the next scene, they're driving to the mountain.
Yeah,
it's like, hang on, resolve that first, please.
No, but then to fix that up, it's okay. I'll make sure we're back for your graduation. So it's all solved. It's okay. It didn't matter. Anyway, go.
No, I don't have much. I thought she actually powered through her own grief to sort of not let that show on her son. And I liked that scene where she did sort of open up to Logan and sort of say like, "Hey, I'm struggling here. I'm allowed to struggle here." And then obviously that scene got ruined for the back half of it. But like, you never really saw her grieve, and I think that was her trying to be a good mum in that sense. But
I think they may have done an okay job with this, where they had, she slept with that photo under the pillow, and I guess that's sort of that reason. Like, when she finds that photo's been scrunched up, then that's her.
Yeah, she's
letting
loose.
Yeah.
There could have been a lot more done with grief in this. Like,
a lot, easily. Who have you got next?
I only have two more, and I have very little to say on either of those two as well. But I've got Martha next.
Yep.
And the only thing I really have to say, without any sort of proper payoff, this character doesn't work at all.
Nope.
As I said, it's like they've seen this type of character in other comp titles and thought, oh, we should put one in ours.
Yeah. It was like,
that's it.
Let's put this trippy as shit old lady who likes to hang out in the woods, and we'll mention she's got dementia, but we'll just make her seem like she's scary.
There could have been cool payoffs with her.
Definitely.
There just wasn't.
No.
I got nothing else to say on her.
Me either.
It wasn't developed.
I didn't have a lot. The other, Did you have Chris?
Yeah, he was the other one I had.
So I felt so bad for this guy.
Well, I think he was just another red herring character.
Yep. Like, they try to make it out like, like I said, he's this creepy sort of dude. You're thinking, is he the sort of guy? And then he just ends up dying for being nice.
Yeah.
It shows, okay, he's a nice guy.
That's probably supposed to be a twist, wasn't it? Because you're supposed to think, oh, they let him in the house. No, it wasn't one situation where I thought he was the bad guy, because it was obvious that they were trying to make him look like a bad guy.
Yeah.
But in what world would he end up looking at their house without like trying to fool the audience into thinking he's a suspect? Like that scene where it's like, oh, I just saw the open for inspection. Yeah, I'd kill for this kind of privacy. It's like, oh, stop just throwing it in our face.
I had Brian, his dad, down too. I was just like, you kill this guy straight off. He's the only one. I feel like maybe it was because he's only on the screen for a tiniest of times, but I thought his connection with Logan was probably the best connection between any characters in the whole film.
And that was the goal, wasn't it? Right? To make you feel this actual loss. So yeah, they did do that quite well, didn't they?
Yeah.
Didn't know his name's Brian.
I just broke down Alison too. I'm like, what a lovely person just to lend this lovely house out.
Sister,
yeah.
Terrible acting. That one scene that she's in, I'm like, I bet you she's someone's mate. Yeah. Because she's like 4 lines. It was terrible. And they didn't look at all like sisters.
No, not at all.
Yeah, very generous, but I think she's obviously quite well off, or she's married into someone who's well off. Look at the house. That house is a stunning house.
It's a lovely place.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind going and staying there for a bit.
Didn't Logan say that when they rocked up? He's like, why haven't we been here?
Yeah, it's a good question.
Great question.
I thought, like, you mentioned this before, I didn't mind Dylan Minnette in this. Up until he got injured. I didn't mind him in it. I thought he was okay. And
like
then
right near the end?
Right near the end when he got injured. Yeah. Then, for me, his performance got bad.
Yeah.
It turned bad. And I think the combination of the ending of the actual narrative as well as his acting just threw it out massively.
True. When he's sort of limping around.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a bad point. But it was a difficult role. A really difficult role.
Do you want to look at some scenes?
Yes.
Okay. What stood out? Did you have anything that you liked about this?
I had 2 scenes.
I got
2 things.
I got 2 as well.
So, this one I liked at the time, but it still pissed me off because there wasn't a payoff. But the very first night or second night or whatever, when Logan goes outside because there's a knock on the door.
I think we're going to have the same thing. Yeah.
Car alarm, and then he saw Crazy Martha. That was a good scare. And I felt really uneasy watching that scene. It's like the only time in the film I actually felt uneasy. And I was like, cool, let's see more of this.
Cool, yep. I've got the same thing. Wandering around, he's looking at the deer, and then just the quick turnaround, bang, there's
what
Martha.
are you doing in my house? It's like, whoa, good.
That got me.
Yeah.
I had a bit of a jump.
So if you know, that's a good learn for the directors. More of that, please. Because they had opportunities to give you scares, and it's like they pulled out.
The basement, there was so many opportunities. Yeah. What's your other one?
The other thing I quite liked was the idea of the pilot light for that hot water was a nice way to showcase like the fear of someone being down there. They probably maybe overused it one too many times, but it was just a cool technique to show or to tell this story without being blunt about the light's going off. Like someone's has to physically blow that candle out or blow that light out. Or turn that. So I thought that was quite well done.
Cool.
What was your other thing?
My other one was, not that I liked the violence, but I thought the violence at the end was done alright. Like, when Logan walks outside and he sees Chris in the car dead, I thought, the prosthetics and stuff on that was cool.
Oh, okay, sure.
And then...
just the slit throat, wasn't it?
Yeah, just the slit throat. And then the fingers snapping. Like, I couldn't watch it.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm not saying that I liked it, but it was like...
Probably didn't need to do, like, 8 fingers.
No, everything... I was like, snap, 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 snap.
I was like, he's going to do 1. Oh, he's going to do 2. He's going to do... Oh, what?
So, like, for a horror movie where, there's times where you want to not look at the screen and turn away, that...
True. Yeah, I'll give him that, because I felt that as well. I didn't kind of see why he was doing that. That was like torture for the sake of torture.
Yep. Okay, well, I think it's time we move into some things that we want to forget.
Yeah, there's a couple.
Yeah, I've got a couple too.
I'll go chronologically. So
good.
When they drove to the mountain, they literally drove all night, and then they arrived in the morning. What the hell?
And remember, they stopped at the shop and met Martha
at nighttime. And
they still drove a lot more.
Yeah, because it was then morning. So the shop, let's say, if I said the shop closes at 9, that's probably being generous.
It was like a servo. It was like maybe it was a 24-hour.
Yeah, but Martha was there, and lucid.
Martha likes to wander the woods at night. Who knows how far she walked?
True, but it didn't seem that late anyway. And and then it was morning when they arrived. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, well, I'm sort of Sorry, you go. Keep going.
That really extended scene when he arrived of him walking around the house into like every single room, then going to the basement, and then the music rising and kind of crescendos on like the dead end in the basement.
And we don't know what that did. What?
I was like, this will come back at least. I still think it's a terrible shot, but this will come back. It didn't even come back. No.
Maybe that's
so bad.
That's where the guy was hanging out.
Maybe
he's behind the bricks.
Yeah, no one actually walked down there again. So, the scene that I liked before about him going downstairs on the first night when he hears a knock. Why didn't the mum come down when the car horn went off? Like, come on, that was pretty loud.
It's a deep sleeper.
Yeah, I was waiting for her to come. I thought when he turned around it was going to be her. But anyway. This one really annoyed me. you know how they had to open for inspection?
Yeah.
She's like, we got the open for inspection tomorrow.
I think I might have this too.
We have to be out by 11.
11, yep.
And then the open house flyer said 10 till 5.
Yeah, that was just really slack.
That is so bad.
Like they made a big deal about having to be out by 11. And then the camera just zooms out and it's like, there's the sign, 10 to 5.
It's like they got like a real open for inspection sign. It's like, oh crap, we can't write on it because it's someone else's sign.
Or they're thinking that you're going to think that there's something more to it than there was already. And yeah.
I thought this film is really sloppy and then you lose a little bit from it.
Yep.
And it was so funny. There was a scene, I think it was when Naomi was taking photos of the like just outside.
Yep, just the nature.
And then Logan walked outside.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was, again, this big crescendo had nothing. He was just like looking outside. And I'm like, did I miss anything? Like, why did he walk outside in the first place? But no. They just did it.
There's so much they didn't explain.
Annoyed me that he never looks puffed or tired after he runs.
He's a machine.
Yeah.
Right? He's a machine.
But then he
vomited.
Yeah, but like, that's not good acting. He needs to do better at that because he's running quick. That annoyed me from the very start.
This is a film that's filled with these little moments that you're sitting there and you want this payoff and you just don't get it, so it become annoying.
Yeah, that's true. And then just to top it off, they chuck in a nightmare scene where you don't know it's a nightmare, but then you see his dad dying, and then it's like, wake up. It's like, it's like you've used every single cue that you've ever read about horror or seen about horror.
They read the ABCs of horror and just gone, okay, we need this.
So that was pretty scathing, but what have I missed?
Well, not that missed, just probably different things that annoyed me. Like, because I totally get how they're all annoying. I didn't like the contact lens, like putting it in the AI. That was like a bit gross to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was obviously for that little payoff at the end that he
you couldn't see.
Come on, he just pulled his contacts out. I've worn contact lenses for 15 years and it's not the kind of thing that you just do on other people.
Hey, I'm a villain. I'm going to rip your contact lens.
Something different
though. On their adventure in the car on the way there, like they're driving along, drops the phone. I'm sitting there going, this is the perfect opportunity. And then remember, there's just this random guy in the middle of the road.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
I laughed because I was like, I'm sitting there going, okay, there's gonna be an animal that runs out. There's gonna be something, but it's just a random guy on the road.
Then he was gone.
Yeah.
So actually, that's fine. Like if you build on that.
Yeah.
Like because I forgot about that.
Do you reckon that's the guy that's in the house?
If it's not, then that's a shocking scene.
But there's no connection, so you don't know anyway.
Because you know what? I think that was before they got to the shop.
Yeah.
So that would have been ages
of
hike.
We're just talking about these things that didn't pay off. So they made this big deal at the start before the dad dies. Whatever her name, the mum says, don't forget the milk. And you specifically see him forget the milk in the service station. And then when they're on their way to the house, the first thing that she goes to the fridge and gets the milk out.
It's almost like, that bloody bastard forgot the milk. He didn't have any here.
But I'm going to get it, so I'm a good parent.
That's right.
And then, her nose starts bleeding.
Oh, yeah.
It's the altitude.
Maybe it was the altitude.
Obviously it was, because it didn't come.
Because it didn't come. Again, it's like a thing they've seen in a horror film. Yeah. Like, let's make a nosebleed.
It's like the other thing,
let's make a nosebleed.
So you go to the basement, the light doesn't work, but there happens to be a torch just sitting there on the
every
bench.
time.
Ready to go. And that piece of wood on the staircase, that was so obvious that one of those planks was going to break.
Oh, yeah.
But then every time they went to the basement, the staircase was fine,
yeah. They showed it once. They showed him skipping the step.
The guy out the front with the lights on, I was just like, you mentioned it, he goes outside, the car out the front.
Yeah.
That was
her car. That was their car.
Yeah, but it was just...
Either way, it's almost worse.
Yeah. Anything with that Ed, the open house guy, was just lame as well. He was woeful. They get back and the house is open and he's inside.
We'll get to that when we talk about killer theories.
We've got okay, good. You mentioned this, the feet in the open house. There's this real focus on the feet. And,
it's like you're watching Bold and the Beautiful.
And they make it out like when Chris stays the night on the couch, they make it out like he gets on the couch and takes his shoes off. No. And they leave the shoes down and they make it out like, they're the shoes that Chris wore. But he made it clear I was not at that open house that day. So I don't know what they were trying to do
with
that.
He also never had, even though they only showed him from the waist down, he never had a Chris build.
I don't know. The putting the phone on charge, they just left the camera on there. It's so obvious. He's putting the phone on charge. It's going to disappear. Yeah. That annoyed me. The scene where Clay gets... Oh, sorry.
There you go. You said you'd do it.
I said I'd do it. Logan. The scene where Logan gets down on the floor to listen on the floor, puts his head on the ground,
That's right.
and just thumps, and he gets scared. What was that?
I'm assuming the killer was down there.
What, with a jackhammer underneath, just waiting for him to put his head on the ground and bang it? Or?
I don't know. Maybe when you turn the pilot light off, it
makes a big bang.
Makes a bump.
Okay, all right, yeah. Like I mentioned before, I thought the scene where Logan and the mum go at it, and he's like, "You're fucking insane" and stuff.
Yeah,
that came from nowhere and just didn't sit right with me.
Terrible. And you know what? I liked the first part of that scene where she says to him, "I'm allowed to feel like this."
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, you know what? She absolutely is. I'm good. This is good to hear. And then bang, it's like, oh no, you ruined it.
The mum getting Chris's phone number and putting it on the bedside table, and Logan walking in, and they're just having this conversation. I wasn't even listening to the conversation because I was just watching that piece of paper until he came and picked it up. And the final thing, I didn't like that he stabbed his mum.
Yeah. I didn't see it coming though. But yeah.
I don't know. I was just, whatever.
Bit rough. He didn't need that.
Nah. Okay. This is tough. What are some themes in this film? What are some things that it's trying to say?
This movie was trying to say there are a number of horror cues that audiences are familiar with, but they don't work unless they are tied back to a narrative idea.
Okay.
That's what this film told me.
Cool.
You can, if you dug a little bit deeper and found something, then I want to hear it.
I nearly got to the core of the earth to try and find something. I was like, okay, so maybe they're talking about dealing with the loss of the father a little bit. They didn't do it. They could have, but they didn't really. They made little mentions here and there, but didn't do it well. No. The other thing was, I had to reach really far with this, but having your dreams taken away. She wanted to be a photographer. He wanted to be a runner, and their dreams were not going to happen being at this place.
I was going to say, there's no reason why those dreams weren't going to happen though. For what it's worth.
But his times were getting slower and slower and slower being here, so he wasn't working.
She started taking photos when she hadn't done it for a long time.
Yeah, true. So I was struggling. That was like
I can see how this film got made. I think it's poor, but I can see how they came up with all this stuff because it's worked elsewhere, right? But there's more to it than just what happens on the surface. I remember when I made my first film in like year 12. And it is disgusting. It is like the worst film that I've ever made because I like look at a shot and I'm like, oh, that shot's cool. I'll just do that shot because I've seen it before, but I don't link it. You don't link it back to anything, no. And that's what this felt like here. That people have been like, oh, this works in X, so I'm going to put it here.
Just a mishmash of all random things.
What's that? Like the horror film, The Visit. Did I see that? No, I don't think I saw it with you. The Visit, M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah,
film.
I've seen The Visit. Yeah.
Really creepy with the two old people. So I'm thinking like, oh yeah, old Alzheimer-y people work in horror films. Yeah. Let's chuck them in here. But like, there's so much more than why they work.
Okay, what do we take away from this?
Before we do that, because at what point are we going to talk about the killer theories? Because this
go for I didn't have any killer theories. So
this door is, I guess, left not wide open, but open enough. It's a somewhat ambiguous ending. They don't show you who the killer is.
No,
which is annoying. I think it's a cop out. But who do you think the killer was?
No one.
A random dude.
Yep, just correct. A random.
So, which is just shocking. So, there's three
theories.
Not theories, but there's
ideas.
3 candidates, okay. I think, that we met that could be the killer.
Okay. Who?
One of them is Martha's husband.
Okay, he's not actually dead?
He's not actually dead.
Why did the guy who fixed the gas heater say that he was actually dead then?
Well, that's the thing. How crazy is Martha, right? Or is this whole thing a big ploy between Martha and the husband to try and, get a bit killy? So she said, hey, let's pretend that you're dead. I'll go a little bit crazy, and then you can go on a murderous rampage with no one being able to suspect you because you're not around. And constantly invite the plumber over to keep you company because I don't know. Yeah, I don't like that one. But I also don't see the motive because she sort of... There was one thing that she said where like, because this is when she was pretending her husband was alive. It's like, we just really don't want them to sell. Like, we're going to really miss this place. That's the only motive I can think of. But that kind of gets... shot out the window when the final scene of this random guy just driving to another open house makes it out like he's like the open house killer. Yeah. Yeah. The other one is the real estate agent. Again, no motive, but it's the only thing that explains his weird behaviour in the house. Because unless he's like seeing the killer when he's there, and
I don't want to watch it again, but I'd have to go back and think about that night that he left. I think crap happened in the house when he left.
After he'd left, yeah. But unless he set things, I don't know. But that's the only thing I can think of.
And what about when they have the open house? They show the boots. He wasn't wearing boots when they were doing the open house.
That's why I've got the plumber.
Okay.
Purely because of his frame, he kind of fit the mold.
I can't believe we're wasting time.
And the fact that he had the phone. I know very easily could have just had the phone down there when the real killer left it down there. Well, there could be something to that. Again, no motive.
If they actually made you think of these three people as actual suspects, that would have been okay. But I didn't even consider any. I finished the film and I didn't even consider.
I think they wanted you to think they were.
Well, they didn't do a good job.
No, and I think the idea was that it was like, the movie The Strangers. Where they just it's like a
the 50s one.
Unless it was remade with it's got Liv Tyler, early 2000s. But basically, these people torment this home.
Okay.
And they're like, "Why'd you do it?" Well, because you were home. So they just picked a house, similar to like the Manson killings and stuff like that. I did see a theory online that Logan was the killer, and this whole thing is like a big trip out that he has for dealing with the grief of his father dying. And I tried to make this work. I was like, oh my God, imagine if this film is so clever that none of us got it. But it really doesn't work.
I'm not
so much stuff doesn't. They're like, but the contact lens at the end is just him taking him out himself. He stabbed his mother. I'm like, oh God, there's something to this.
He just woke up from the creek bed when he's cold dead.
But it doesn't work with him being outside with the cold water on him with his mum popped all her fingers out and she's like, Logan, help me, and he helps her. I don't know.
Yeah.
That doesn't work. But anyway, I think, I do think it is just some random dude that just kills people at open houses.
Couldn't agree more.
But,
I can't believe people have gone into that. Okay, good.
No, that's just me as well than people. I just had to... Chris was never...
You needed an answer.
Yeah, and I thought we could talk through it, but there's nothing to talk through.
I'm sorry. I'm giving you donuts on that. I got nothing. All right, what do we take from this, please?
They kept missing out on opportunities for a scare, it felt. And I don't know if that was a clever way of... Remember we watched the pretty thing that lives in the house?
Yep.
And that one of the main concepts of that film was it was probably not quite a horror, because they kept sort of lingering the camera so you'd expect a scare and then it would take it away from you.
Yep.
Because, every film doesn't have to be as you expect it. But this felt like it was being a little bit too clever. And there were so many times where it missed out on what could have been a really cool scare.
Definitely, yep. One scare was all I got.
Yeah, same. And they did it well, so they've got it in their wheelhouse. I also think that ambiguous endings aren't clever just because you leave it open. They're clever because it makes you think outside the box, where this was just dreadfully lazy way of ending it.
Didn't make me think at all at the end.
Nah.
Not at all. For me, it was for a fairly, runtime, it wasn't that long. But it felt slow for me. Real slow. And it's those lingering shots you're talking about, just giving you nothing, just with music, and there were too many things that weren't resolved. They were just put there for the sake of being put there, and that just frustrated me.
Red herrings, they're everywhere.
Yep. All right, IMDb time. Did you jump on IMDb at all to look up anyone or anything?
I actually didn't.
No?
This movie? No, did you?
I knew, from... knowing Dylan Minnette that I had to have a Lost reference in here. So he plays in Lost, the TV show, J.J. Abrams show. Okay. He plays the kid version of Jack Shepherd in that show.
Dylan Minnette does, doesn't he?
Yeah, right. I knew that before, but I did look up the cop, Matt Angel, the director.
Did you?
So when he rocked in, I'm like, that guy's face is familiar. And he's been in so much TV. And he was in Grimm, a TV show I watched for a little bit, but he just looked real familiar.
Yeah, right.
So I did look him up, but yeah, that was all.
Yeah, okay.
Do you have any questions? I've got a lot of questions. I've got quite a few questions.
I've got one that we sort of touched on. So and I know it's kind of hard to make sense of things, so we might not even really have an answer. So we're not saying that the male real estate agent was a killer option. So why was he always in such a rush and a fluster to get out? And
because they just don't like real estate agents. They're just dweebs. I don't know. It was...
Yeah, you don't think... apart from the fact they tried to make it seem suspicious, that's probably
It's just another one of these red herrings that they're just trying to make you think it's someone else.
Cool, yeah.
That was all I had. So they got this guy out to fix the water heater. Why didn't they get someone to fix the light in the basement too? That could have solved a lot of things in the basement.
Oh, yeah. True.
Yeah.
Didn't think of it.
I know that. I was just thinking that.
No, really, they always had light down there. It wasn't like
torch.
being... Yeah, but it wasn't like being in the dark caused them too much of an issue.
No. But there were a couple of scenes where they had the bad guy sort of in the shadows, like behind them and stuff.
True. Did you know, I almost wrote down as one of the funny scenes when he walks in with his mum naked in the bathroom. That was pretty clever, the way they timed that. For him to she sort of yells because obviously the water's cold. He runs in there because he's having these weird thoughts. And she's just like, bang, completely naked. I was like, that's pretty funny. The way to make it awkward.
At the end, so when Logan goes out to see that Chris's neck's been slit, and then the killer sort of bangs him against the car, he's on the floor, and then he pours, like, I'm guessing it was gasoline all over him.
I thought that initially.
That's what I thought too. But
I think it was just cold water.
Yeah. Okay.
Freeze the bastard. Because I thought that too. He's poured gasoline on him. He's going to light him on fire.
Yeah.
And then he just nicked off. And
then he comes inside, he's got icicles on his face.
I initially had that as a question.
Okay.
Like, did he just pour cold water on him? But then I know, no, he did. Just pour cold water on him.
Okay. Sure.
Kind of screwed with him a little bit though, so it wasn't the worst idea. But it was such a weird...
There's a scene where the mum gets up to go to the toilet and the killer's in the bed next to her. Do you seriously think that she thought that was Logan in bed with her the whole time?
The way they do that scene, she kind of like turns her body the whole way so she doesn't even like half look at the bed next to her. I was like, there wasn't even... was there a line of dialogue that said, hey, if you get scared, come jump in bed with me for the night? No, they already said...
Oh, okay.
They already said... he said, do you want me to sleep in here tonight? Yeah. But either way, like, she clearly avoids like looking at that side of the bed.
Yeah.
I actually... my wife was like, oh, how was that movie that you watched? And I said it was atrocious. And I explained that scene to her. Of like, so she's like, goes to the toilet and comes back and like... For starters, why is he in the bed with...
It was
How
weird.
come we didn't write that scene? That was a stinker. And then she spends like 10 minutes in there looking at the photos. And then that's like another scare, right? When you finally look at a photo. Who took that? Oh my God.
And then so, the killer ties her up, breaks her fingers.
Yeah.
And she screams and all of it. Where is he? Where did he go?
Is he trying to lure Logan back in?
Well, Logan obviously comes, but he wanted him to freeze to death, didn't he?
Well, didn't he? Yeah. Didn't he go back down to the basement? Didn't they find him in the basement initially? No, he grabbed the late mum.
And that annoyed me too because
basement's where he does his work.
Yeah, but so Logan was upstairs with the mum, and then the next scene shows him running from downstairs upstairs again.
Yeah, I noticed that, and then she was gone.
Yeah, but he was already upstairs, and he's run. I don't know. That was annoying. And the last one I had was, what was the point of making Logan a runner when he couldn't even use that skill at the end to get away? Because to me, you put all this effort into building him as this runner, so he should be able to run away at the end, and then you beat him so much that he can't even run.
I guess it's another red herring, because that obviously made the line, like when she said run, kind of made that have a bit more, oomph, but...
Okay, I missed the oomph.
Yeah, no, the movie.
Okay.
I had a question.
Yes, good.
Does Logan have any friends? This is a guy whose father just passed away. He's about to graduate high school, and you don't hear boo from any of his friends.
True.
Don't check in on him. Hey, how you doing, man?
He's too obsessed with that song that they liked, that he shared with his dad.
At least...
But he needed that phone, so he must have been using the phone for something.
At least, give him, one friend who's like, hey, man,
Checks
I get that you need space. All right. Give me that. He becomes a little bit more real.
Yeah, fair.
Come on.
Time to wrap this up?
Time to wrap this
Let's
up.
do it. So, we like to have a chat and work out of 5 what we would give a film. I'm looking forward to this, MJ. What are you going to give this out of 5?
Because of the mystery nature of the film, I found myself waiting for a payoff. It never came. All of these weird and thoughtless horror executions ensured it was never going to be good, but it still could have come out with a pass mark. As I said, I don't mind B-grade horror films.
Yeah.
As you can tell, it completely missed the mark for me. It turned out to be a lazy, undeveloped, and atrocious excuse for a horror film. The genre deserves better than this rubbish. It's 1 star, though.
Okay.
I'm not giving it half a star. The films, and I need to preface this. The films that I've given half a star to, and there's only 2.
Brahma Naaman
and Pee-wee's Big Holiday. I actively disliked them as I was watching them. Basically, from start to finish, I disliked those films. Whereas this one, I was intrigued for a little bit. Obviously, I got led down the wrong path.
Yeah.
But that's why it's not a half a star. But this movie sucked.
Fair. So, I'm the same. I found this really, really, really hard to enjoy. where everything they painstakingly put there for you to think about didn't matter.
Yeah.
So to me, that's just horrible. You know, there's no explanation of why they were targeted. There's no identity of the killer, and there's no payoff.
Lazy.
So I'm giving it 1 as well.
Yeah. You know what we should have done? We should have looked for a positive review online.
We should have, and we could have given that person a bit of a...
No, but see what they had to say.
Yeah.
Because, you know what, movies is subjective. That's why we love movies.
True. Subjective to a degree.
Yeah. So this averages out to 1 star.
1 star, very good. So we are on social media. We have Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. We are at FlixForum. We pop a question of the week up every now and then. This week, taking it from the film, do you think that open houses are weird?
Yeah, you know, well, that's probably one of the better dialogue pieces of the film.
Because they're a little bit weird. People just come in and check your house out.
I've thought that as well, so we should have put that in the good scenes.
Okay, so we are back tomorrow.
Back tomorrow.
Back tomorrow. We are doing a French comedy from 2018.
Cool.
It's called Blockbuster. It's directed by Julie Hygrek. It stars Cyrus Shahidi, Charlotte Gabris, and Tom Hygrek. So get on board.
Cool. Blockbuster. I think it's going to be quite different to this. This wasn't a blockbuster.
Different language too. That was what I was taking out of it.
I don't know. I don't know if this was necessarily English.
All right. Well, good chat as usual, and I'll see you tomorrow, and we'll hear from everyone else tomorrow too.
Looking forward to it.